One of the things that I'm constantly kind of wondering about or thinking about is trying to figure out what is really the difference between those of us who believe in individualism and those that believe in collectivism. Essentially, what's the difference between those on the left and the right, for lack of a better term, or a kind of a label, so to speak? And I realized, and it dawned on me, that those that are on the left, on that collectivist mindset, they don't necessarily worship the individual, they worship the ideology. So, what do I mean by that? Well, they essentially adhere to a dogma, a philosophy. So, let's take, for example, the climate movement. They don't necessarily worship the individuals who, let's say, champion it. Of course, they'll support them. But that ideology, that underlying ideology, is what drives them. And for that, they're fervent in everything they do. So it doesn't matter who it is that's leading the charge on it, they'll support it because they believe in the underlying ideology. Now, those of us that are individualists, those of us consider it on the right, we're a little different. And we more worship the individual and necessarily not the ideology. How can I tell this? Well, because a lot of times we cannot define what our clear end game is. Like, we don't necessarily like what the other side is doing or what the vision they have, because they're crystal clear about their vision for the future, but we don't necessarily define an alternate vision. We don't necessarily come out and say, okay, well, this is what I believe. This is the ideology I ascribe to. And for that reason, I'm just going to pursue it no matter who the leaders are. What we do is we tend to hero worship. We worship leaders, and we think that some one individual leader is going to solve the problem. And that's what happens, and that's what drives the difference in the turnout for events and all sorts of things. So you'll notice that anytime there is, especially if you look at even the march against a lot of the sexualization of children, for example, the people that will turn out on the group side, on the pro-trans side, whatever side you want to call the LGBTQ plus, they're fervent. They're true believers. They believe in the ideology, and they get the mass numbers. Whereas the side on the other side, and now it's changing a bit, but they're not so they believe in it, but they don't necessarily ascribe to it in the same fundamental way. They look more for individual leaders to show up and solve the problem, whereas the other side says, no. If I'm going to have a change, it's got to be me. I've got to be the one to do it. So if we're going to win this culture war, if we're going to win this war of ideology, we have to, those of us that are individualists, would label ourselves on the right, have to jettison the idea of heroes, superheroes, idol worship. We cannot look at it. So take, for example, Pierre Poilievre. Those of you who worship Pierre, he's going to be just a disappointment like everybody else. He's just a human being. What you have to view Pierre as is a tool, an instrument to get your policy changes done. And that's really how you should be viewing all politicians, all elected officials in all areas of government. These are not people you're going to sit around with and barbecue and kibitz about, what's happening with your kids. These are people who are going to do a job, and their job primarily is to enact laws and make changes and shape the country in the direction you want to see it go. That's what their whole and sole purpose is. If it's any more for you, if you're going to start worshiping and say, well, this guy's a good guy and well, that guy's a bad guy, I'm here to tell you they're all bad guys and bad girls. There's no good people here. These are not people, like I said, whose best interest is your interest. They're self-interested, like all of us are. We're all selfish to some degree, so we have to come to that realization. They are telling you what you want to hear, so you'll vote for them. Think of it like movie stars. I know, for example, myself, I grew up in an era where Tom Hanks was huge and everybody loved Tom Hanks. But I didn't know Tom Hanks. I loved the characters that Tom Hanks played. I don't know anything about Tom Hanks. I don't know what he believes in or what he ascribes to. Based on the characters he portrayed, I thought, yeah, great guy. We could sit around and have a barbecue. Who knows? Maybe, he and I could be polar opposites, because Tom Hanks, the real person's always going to disappoint me because he's not what's been created. So it's no different. So if you put all your eggs in one basket with any politician and say, well, this politician's going to save us, not going to happen. They are just a means to an end, folks. And that's how you should view any one of them. They all have shades of gray. There's no black or white with these people. They are all that way. The only people that are going to make a real difference is you and I when we engage in the process. when we ask those hard-hitting questions about policy, what do these people believe in, and we are not driven by personality, any desire that somehow this person, because they're saying all the right things, are going to save us from the mess we're in. There is no heroes. There are no superheroes, just all tools in our basket that we've got to use and use well and realize that each serve a different function. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. You can also follow me on my Rumble on my Locals account. You can also follow me on my Twitter at Camera612. Last few days, I haven't posted as much. I've been dealing with some other issues. Again, this is kind of like a passion project for me, so I don't always post. And I, do my best. So in the meantime, I will see what I can do the next time, and I will see you next time. All right, bye-bye.